bring you on. How are you?
Hello there. I'm wonderful. It's great to be here.
Good, good to hear. And we're super happy to have you with us. Let me briefly introduce Brian here. He is currently the EVP, CTO, and CISO at PackSize International, an award-winning supply chain and sustainable packaging industry leader in North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. So thank you again for joining us, Brian. I'll turn the time over to you and get your slides pulled up here.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today and share with you some of my thoughts on ways that you can harness artificial intelligence to drive revenue growth for your enterprise. And as stated, I'm the CTO, CISO, and EVP at PackSize, but I'm also an AI technology inventor. And so I've started my career in the earliest stages of AI 20 plus years ago, which were nothing more than complex if-then else statements, all the way through object detection, object recognition, natural language processing, generative AI capabilities across a variety of different use cases, including vision and others. And so I'm going to share with you some of the painful lessons I learned over time around how you can use AI and ways that you can avoid distractions. There's no question at this point, the opportunity that AI presents businesses, the amount of global AI spending that we're seeing, the level of interest that is existing in the markets, the number of times this comes up in board meetings at every company across the planet. AI is clearly steep on the hype cycle. But there's also a reality that AI is delivering significant incremental value to companies today. And there's also a lot of companies that are going to get distracted and AI is going to slow them down. And you can take advantage of this massive ramp up in global spending for AI across enterprises and use this to your advantage if you follow a couple of basic steps. But it's important to note, there are some barriers. There are barriers you have to overcome in order to be able to successfully deploy AI. And I loved the comments of Zion in the previous presentation. Could not agree with many of the things that he stated more. And I'll talk about some of those here, but I have maybe perhaps a different view. To me, the number one challenge I've seen over many years in the AI field is scale, and the number two problem is scale, and the number three problem is scale. It's scale, scale, scale. And the question you have to ask yourself is, are your AI experts, are your data scientists, your model developers, are they creating point solutions? Or are they tasked with creating scalable models on scalable platforms? I have seen countless millions of dollars spent by very large and successful organizations that was a complete waste because they invested so much time on trying to train a model to do something extremely focused and extremely specific. And anything in the environment that changes, whether it's someone trying to do defect detection on a manufacturing line, if they overtrain on one specific use case and suddenly the lighting changes in the factory you're in, everything in the model can break. If the product changes, everything in the model can break. You have to ask your team, are you training a model to do a specific thing? Are you trying to detect a specific object, as an example? Or are you training the model to detect and classify an array of objects and record the context of the observations to assist in further model refinement over time? What is the destination your AI teams are trying to achieve? And if you're not cautious, you can get in this hype cycle And hey, we just got to show we're using AI to do something cool in our business and focus too much on individual point solutions and not think about the destination you're trying to achieve to. You're trying to grow revenue, you're trying to improve productivity, you're trying to eliminate constraints in your business and use AI as a tool to assist with that. Additionally, a barrier to scale is AI today is highly workforce dependent. We think of AI as being a system or process that can be used to increase the efficiency of a workforce. But that's true once you have a finished product that you're deploying. But getting there through a traditional AI workflow, there is lots of this human in the middle constraint. You still need people to define problems. You still need people to focus on data capture, data cleansing. They have to do model development, model training. They have to evaluate those models, refine them, put them in a production environment to deploy them, and then manage that and go through a full, ML ops cycle in order to be able to rinse and repeat and continue to optimize over time. It's not a trivial amount of work, and it's very difficult to retool an existing workforce who's not used to AI successfully. And this problem, I believe, is one of the biggest workforce constraint problems that we will have over the next decade. But don't take my word for it. There's others that feel this way as well. If you look at the workforce constraints, today, it's expected that there's less than 1 million available AI experts in the workforce. And last year at the close of the year, there was over almost 2.5 million open positions. So the ratio of available workforce to open positions was extremely imbalanced. And if you look at how that's expected to grow just by the end of next year, you're talking about nearly 100x constraint. Now, the available workforce will grow, so maybe that drops down to a 10x constraint. But the reality is there's a lot of human in the middle bottlenecks in AI, and there's a shortage of resources for a highly competitive market and a highly competitive compensation environment for your AI developers. It's going to be difficult to attract and retain the talent you need to successfully develop and deploy AI solutions. So what are my recommendations? Well, a few things I think are worth noting. First, I think you can use the theory of constraints. I apologize for the formatting issue there. I think you can use the theory of constraints and solid product leadership to really allow AI to accelerate your team versus having AI be a distraction for your team. Now, what do I mean by that? You have an existing business and you're trying to understand how you can grow your revenue base. From the top level of the organization, is it clear what's limiting your revenue growth today? Do you have supply chain constraints? Do you have skilled workforce constraints? Do you have product development constraints? What are the things that are holding you back? Too many defects in your product? What are the challenges that you need to overcome in your business? And instead of just looking for AI tools that you can go deploy that are available in the market, you should be focusing your team on understanding what are our biggest revenue growth challenges. And if it's inventory and supply chain management that is holding your company back, that's where you do your first AI projects. That's where you go and find partners, hire the right talent, and go work on deploying intelligence in that area to eliminate those constraints. It's just like a theory of constraints application versus just looking for, hey, how do we, ChatGPT exists, how do we use this to make our business run better? Instead of finding a tool and looking for an application, think about your constraints and how you can go look for the right tools to fix your specific problems. Your opportunity for success is so much greater. The opportunity for a positive return on investment is so much greater when you're applying it to your existing constraints. Additionally, this approach that so many companies are taking to deploy AI in their enterprises reminds me a lot of challenges that we saw 20 years ago in the workforce when people were trying to find ways to apply lean principles to their company. If you're just going to say you're applying lean principles, then you might see some benefit. It might sound good. But if you're really trying to understand how lean principles can be used to make your business run better, then you could be onto something great. And my strongest advocacy is find the existing limiters and search for partners or develop your solutions around scalable platforms to fix some of your current revenue growth limiters. Then you can also, in parallel, it doesn't have to be in sequential order, focus on applying AI to enhance the value proposition of existing products or services. If you have a customer base that you're servicing today and you want to grow that revenue base, you can look for opportunities to deliver a better customer experience, to reduce the number of defects that a customer has to deal with, to predictively understand what sort of challenges your customers might be facing. You can look for ways you can take data, turn it into information, and create enterprise value on existing products and services. Think of it as an enhancement to an existing product line. And if you can get AI tools applied to enhance your existing product line, the opportunity of success is so much higher than just starting off with, let's go create our own new AI tool to go do X in the marketplace. Starting from scratch can be done, and there are companies who have been extremely successful at it. There's a lot more companies that have failed in that sense. The companies I've consistently been able to see apply AI, not effortlessly, but with the least amount of friction, have been the companies that have focused on using AI to enhance their value proposition. And this is just core product leadership principles. Next, focus on context. What surprises me is how little the AI ecosystem is talking about the power of context in AI. In order for you to achieve any sort of agentic AI systems capability, in order for you to have healthy and scalable generative AI systems capability, you have to have some level of context awareness in your system. What do I mean by that? Well, context is when you have a single data point. I found a shopper on my camera in my retail store, and I know that they're there. Okay, interesting data point. If I don't understand the context of that shopper, there's not much value I can create from that. But if I can understand demographics, if I can understand the context of what are they doing, what are they interacting with in that retail store? Are we sensing buying behaviors? Have we detected that person before? Do we recognize that individual? Do we understand their purchasing history? Do we understand their purchasing patterns? Do we understand that they normally shop online, or do they shop in-store primarily? Are there external events that they shop online when the weather's bad and they shop in-store when the weather's good? Are there things like that in the data that you can add almost as metadata to your database to be able to provide context and utilize that to make better real-time decisions? You can make better decisions on inventory, on pricing, on pushing promotions, having feedback on how your products are meeting the needs of the market. When you have context, you have an opportunity to significantly improve the generative AI capabilities of your systems. And ultimately, it gets you a step closer towards having more proficient agentic AI systems, or eventually humankind will find ways to even approach artificial general intelligence. But you can't approach artificial general intelligence without context awareness. And this is what makes humans so smart. We can detect the context. We can sense the tone in the voice and the environment. We can look to see where were they looking when they said that versus when they said something else. We can adapt that to different people, different environments. We can customize our approach. We can find intelligible ways to explain what we know and what we don't know. Humans are fantastic at context. And if you look at some of the phenomenal work OpenAI has done, I can't speak highly enough of how brilliant I think that team is. One of their key advantages, in my view, is their willingness to use the context of social media scored databases and understanding, was there humor exposed in that particular text thread? And was that upvoted or downvoted? And treating upvotes and downvotes as reinforcement learning, but understanding the context. Oh, in this subreddit, when I comb through Reddit's database, I find these items are humorous and these items are offensive. In a completely different subreddit, I may see different patterns. You can start to get senses of how humans respond and what they upvote or downvote if you better understand the context of the information that's presented. Just having a highly upvoted phrase or sentence is not going to do you much good unless you know the context with which it was typed and the context with which it was upvoted, in what forum. All that contextual information leads to much more robust training capabilities. And so I think OpenAI as an organization definitely gets the value of context. And when I've seen other companies do well at deploying their solutions, or just even beyond LLM type solutions, when they're focusing on the context, they end up producing better, repeatable, more reliable outcomes. So where are there additional opportunities? Well, context awareness in your generative AI system can actually solve a lot of your future human in the middle constraints that you're going to have. If you think about where your organizations are going to need to go, and you look at the traditional AI workflow that we just described in the previous slide, if you can have a context-aware AI database, you can start to create the capabilities of having hypothesis generation and testing systems embedded in your AI solutions. And with those hypothesis generating and testing systems, combined with contextual awareness, you can start to allow your systems to be more adaptable. And making them more adaptable because you're building context into your solution will make that platform much more scalable and avoid a huge amount of human in the middle constraints that your team may be experiencing over time. I like to think about one of my favorite use cases for the use of artificial intelligence, which is improving product quality in any sort of organization, whether the product is software, whether the product is an application, whether the product is a widget that's manufactured. Looking for the type of analytic capabilities that can identify anomalies that the human eye wouldn't be able to detect is essential in improving the number of defects that are caught by your organization before they work their way out to customers. Whether that defect is an error in code, whether that defect is a non-functioning or damaged product, you want to be able to detect that as early as possible in your flow and make sure it doesn't get to a customer. And using AI tools to try to help detect those kind of issues can be one of the quickest ways that you can increase the operational efficiency of your organization and ultimately improve the output of your organization, because you're spending less time addressing the fires of a product that shipped out and had issues versus catching it first and delivering something high quality to your customers. But all too often, I see organizations go on the hunt for a specific known defect. If it's a widget, if it's an application, looking for a specific known security vulnerability, looking for a known defect that can occur on that widget. If you're training a vision system on a manufacturing line just to try to spot one known defect, you're going to find that to be extremely challenging if you change your product design, if you move manufacturing to a new location, if you ramp up your manufacturing to multiple lines. That whole model may need to be redeveloped again from scratch or constantly modified to make sure that it's accurate. If you are designing your system to look for anomalies, look for understanding what healthy is, and simply trying to detect what doesn't look normal, then you can also start to build in a context-aware AI database, a CAD system, that can understand when I saw something odd, what was the context of that? Where was it? What time of day? What was the environment? What came before it? What came after it? You can start to build in intelligence that will allow your system to do what humans can do, which is classification. But you can't classify easily without context. You need to be able to have that context awareness built in directly to your solutions. And by doing so, you then can unlock additional generative capabilities. And it's not just applying generative AI for the purposes of, I want to add 2 user inputs of, a unicorn driving a Porsche 911 and then do some scene fusion generatively and create an image. There still are those generative capabilities that can exist without some level of context. But the more contextually aware that generative AI system is, the more it'll be able to understand how humans work, what we see, and what's highly capable in terms of an output from that. I think many of you have probably seen you do an image generation tool, say, show me a person camping, and the generative engine puts the campfire inside the tent. Okay, well, it found all the right ingredients, it knew that context, but didn't necessarily understand the context of fires inside tents are generally not a good idea when you're camping. And so providing more layers of context can enable you to take another step in generative AI, which can allow you to actually start to generate even new models and start to test those new models in new ways. So applying generative AI capabilities directly into your model development. And that's another way that you can help improve the scale capabilities of your organization. And so with that, I will wrap up my talk for the day and say thank you to all of you for letting me speak today. I hope you found this insightful. And if there's any questions, I would love to be able to answer those at this time.
Excellent. Brian, thank you so much. Thank you for all the preparation that was put into that. Really insightful on knowing the context, right? Understanding that what goes on around that. One thing that stood out to me that you shared that I wanted to ask and ask you to expound on is let me see here. I made a note now. Value prop. Yeah. So value proposition, when you said that, I was thinking of everything else that you've mentioned during this presentation. I think that understanding that value proposition, making sure that's what you want to present to your buyers before you move forward is so important because it creates that alignment with everyone else that's involved in that process.
That's right.
So I'd just like to hear some more of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, one of the things I find really interesting is there was a recent publication that came out from an analytics firm, and I won't quote them here because I don't have the citation perfect, but their view was if they look across the whole range of products, how do consumers respond to AI as an ingredient in what they're buying? And they typically dislike it. Consumers, if they feel like if you put enhanced by AI, if you add that into a product, they tend to like it less. It feels artificial. It becomes almost like an artificial ingredient. Where if you put like artisanal in front of it, or hand carved, or handmade, that can often be increased in the value perception of consumers. So it's important to think about what is the customer wanting to pay for. And if you follow really robust product leadership principles in your product design and you understand your value proposition, you can think about how do I apply AI to improve my customer experience? Most people would love to have a chatbot that can instantly answer the question that works effectively. First time I typed a question, I instantly got an answer. I didn't have to sit on hold for 15 minutes and wait for someone to help me troubleshoot. They helped me fix my problem immediately. That application is delivering a better customer experience using an AI-based chatbot to go search a broad amount of data and give a customer a quicker answer to their problem. You're using AI not for AI's sake, but to deliver a better value proposition to your customer. And that's what I recommend businesses do. When you're thinking about the use of AI, either be using it to solve your own revenue constraints internally, or use it to better define or to better enhance a customer value proposition from the customer's perspective, not from your perspective. And assume the customer may never even know that you used AI in that end product, because they may not want to pay more for it if you do it. But if they just get a better experience, they're often delighted to have that. Another good example in the automotive industry is there are a number of people who get very nervous at the thought about self-driving capabilities. It really worries them. But they're delighted to purchase a car that has accident avoidance, brake assist features, or dynamic cruise control. I mean, these are AI capabilities that exist, but it's not going so far as getting people worried about the implications of self-driving. It's, hey, we've got features that are going to help assist you when you're driving to have a better, safer experience. That sounds great. But if you just pitch it as artificial intelligence for artificial intelligence sake, that can be more of a challenge.
Excellent. Yeah, just emphasizes the importance of that market testing before going so far deep that funnel, down the funnel. Well, again, Brian, thank you so much for joining us. Brian, again, for those of you joining us, EVP and CTO of Pack Size International. Thanks again.
Thank you.